Hello lovely students, welcome back to Push to Talk. This is your coach Parfait, and today I'm super excited to be here. Today we're going to talk about phrasal verb. And why have I selected this lesson? Because this is one of the lessons that so many people are getting confused with it, and I want to make it clear today in this video. So it's all about the reality about phrasal verb. I hope you're going to enjoy it. I hope you're going to learn the reality on phrasal verb so that you can understand and not having problem when talking about phrasal verb. Don't worry, I'll be mixing. I'll be going French and English so that everybody can understand it clearly. You know, when native speakers are speaking, sometimes it becomes difficult for you to understand. Why? Because they are using the same verbs that you know, but it's difficult for you to understand. You know why it's difficult for you to understand? Because they are using phrasal verbs. Now, in this lesson, I'm going to give you the basic or the main idea about phrasal verb. So in this video, we're going to talk about 3 points. The first point is, what is a phrasal verb? The second point is, why phrasal verbs are difficult to learn. And the very last point, I'm going to give you the best way for you to learn phrasal verbs. Alors dans cette vidéo, nous allons parler de 3 points comme je viens de le dire. Nous allons apprendre c'est quoi un phrasal verb. En français, on parle de verbe à particules. Deuxièmement, nous allons savoir pourquoi les phrasal verbs sont difficiles à apprendre. Et on va finir avec le moyen le plus simple ou bien le meilleur moyen pour que vous puissiez apprendre sur le phrasal verb. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Well, by definition, what is a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb, it is a verb. It is a normal verb. For example, to go, to get, to put, to take, to cut, to which we add a particle. That particle can be an adverb or a preposition. For example, to, up, for, those are prepositions. In adverb, we can have away, together. These are adverbs. Now, if we take a verb and then we had a particle, or that particle can be, as I said, a preposition or an adverb, we have what we call a phrasal verb. Now, do you know the reason why phrasal verbs are difficult? Phrasal verbs are difficult, first of all, because there are so many. Les phrasal verbs sont vraiment nombreux. On a beaucoup de phrasal verbs et voilà ce qui fait que les phrasal verbs sont difficiles à apprendre. Et après ça, ils ont diverses significations. Mais pourquoi je dis cela? Parce que je vais donner un exemple. Je vais donner le premier verbe qui est to give. To give, c'est donner en français. Now, if you take the same verb and then you had a particle, for example, up. If you say to give up, do not put in your mind that it will keep the same meaning. Nope, the meaning will totally change. So this is one of the things that makes phrasal verb difficult. So every single time when you're going to talk a verb and then you had another particle, put in your mind that the meaning is going to change. It's not going to keep the same meaning. They have idiomatic meaning. So their meaning are a little bit idiomatic. The next thing that makes phrasal verb difficult is the type of phrasal verbs. We have transitive phrasal verbs, intransitive phrasal verbs, and after we have separable phrasal verbs and inseparable or inseparable phrasal verbs. Nous avons le phrasal verb transitif, le phrasal verb intransitif, le phrasal verb séparable, c'est-à-dire qu'on peut séparer. Nous avons le phrasal verb qu'on ne peut pas séparer, donc inséparable, montrer. Aujourd'hui, je ne vais pas trop parler sur le phrasal verb dans le sens, dans trop de détails. Je vais seulement vous expliquer la réalité sur le phrasal verb. Dans la vidéo que je serai en train de faire prochainement, je serai en train de faire des vidéos particulières liées au phrasal verb selon différents verbes. Alors, rassurez-vous que vous êtes abonné à la chaîne pour que vous ne puissiez pas manquer d'autres vidéos qui seront en train de venir. Et cela va vous aider à améliorer votre anglais sans hésitation. Alors, entrons à la vidéo. Type of phrasal verb. We have transitive phrasal verb and intransitive phrasal verb. By definition, what is a transitive phrasal verb? A transitive phrasal verb, it is a phrasal verb that requires a direct object. I'm going to give an example. To call for, to fix up, to hold up, to let down, to pay off, to take off. Those are phrasal verbs that require a direct object after them. Transitive phrasal verbs, ce sont des verbes qui ont besoin d'un objet après eux. Ils ne fonctionnent pas correctement quand vous les conjuguez ou bien quand vous les employez seuls comme ça. I'm going to give an example. The first example I gave is to call for. To call is, for example, you take the telephone, then you start ringing someone. But in this phrasal verb, when you say to call for, it means to require. It means it's required. And I'm going to give an example. So if someone says, the recipe called for cinnamon. So you have seen this is a phrasal verb, and of course this is not used as to ring someone. No. Here it is require. It means the recipe that you have made or the chef made requires that cinnamon. So you have seen that this is a transitive phrasal verb. It requires. For example, if I say the recipe called for what? This is the question that you can ask. So it always requires a direct object after them. That's why we call it transitive phrasal verb. After, we have intransitive phrasal verb. What is intransitive phrasal verb? This is actually the opposite of the first type, which means intransitive phrasal verb are verbs that cannot or do not take objects. It's not an obligation to take an object after them. I can give an example. To break down, to die down, to get up, to run away, to show up, to throw up. Those are phrasal verbs that do not require or cannot take a direct object, but it can take an indirect object. So here it can take indirect object, but not direct objects. Now let's go for examples. I can say they broke up. We easily understand, yes, that was about the relationship they had in the past and they broke up. Even though I don't say the relationship, it is not important. So here I simply understand that the relation has been broken up and there is no way for me to continue. But for transitive phrasal verb, you know, there you need to put a direct object. But for transitive, put in your brain, do not add, it's not an obligation. But for transitive, it is an obligation. And you have a list of transitive phrasal verb on Google and a list of intransitive phrasal verb on Google. You can look for them and you're going to practice your English without any problem. Using phrasal verbs, they are commonly used and this is going to help you to level up your English. Now, let's go to separable and unseparable phrasal verb. It's clear, when I say separable, it is a phrasal verb that can be separated. I can give an example. To switch off. For example, we're talking about the light and I want you to switch off the light. I can say, please, can you switch the lights off? This is separable. You can see I take switch and after I put lights between the preposition and the verb and after I put the preposition after. So this is a separable phrasal verb. And we have so many phrasal verbs. To take off, which is to remove. For example, instead of saying, can you take off your cape? I can say, can you take it off? I put it between the verb and the preposition. So these are separable phrasal verbs. Now let us finish with the unseparable phrasal verb. Unseparable phrasal verbs are phrasal verbs that cannot be separated. If you try to separate them, the meaning will totally change. Peut-être que vous ne pouvez même pas avoir la bonne signification de la phrase ou bien ce que vous voulez dire. Les phrasal verbs inséparables ne sont pas séparables. On est censé les utiliser comme ils sont. Now, talking about unseparable phrasal verb, we have, for example, to count on, to disagree with, to call on, to call for, to call out of. I can give an example. I disagree with you. You cannot say, I disagree you with. No, you cannot say it like this. If you try to separate an unseparable phrasal verb, the sentence will be meaningless. So for you, it's better to know that this is a phrasal verb that can be separated and this is a phrasal verb that cannot be separated. So it's better for you to put it in mind that we have separable phrasal verb and unseparable phrasal verb. To finish, what is the best way for you to learn phrasal verbs? The best way for you to learn phrasal verbs is to look for phrasal verbs that you use most of the time in your daily basis. I can give an example. We get up every day. We go in every day. We wake up every day. We keep on every day. We have phrasal verbs that we're using almost every time. Those are the phrasal verbs that you should try to learn and you should try to memorize, mostly when native speakers are using them. And this way you'll be improving how to pronounce them, how to use them without any hesitation. Here, the idea that I can give about phrasal verb, best way to learn phrasal verb is, of course, we know you can go on Google, but you should not do this. Try not to do this. You should not go on Google and then you take a list of phrasal verbs, then you start reading them. Non, arrêtez. Si vous prenez une liste de phrasal verbs, ça sera comme une répétition, peut-être vous n'allez même pas bien le mémoriser. The best way is to look for phrasal verbs that you use every time. while watching videos, listening to music, you can come across phrasal that native speakers are using, and then you can take those phrasal verbs and start using them. In this way, you'll be improving your English. Hope you understand something. I hope now you have come across the reality about phrasal verb. So next time I'll be coming with other new lessons. Make sure to click on the subscribe button. I'm going to share so many content as I told you, and I'll try to do my best to keep my promises. I'll try to do my best, I say it. So thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.